After I watched Kicking and Screaming and doing my review on that movie, it kind of sent me on a bit of a 90s kick, and I ended up watching a bunch of movies that were kind of in that same vein. And that eventually led me to the movie Swingers, which I'm going to be talking about today. Swingers is a dramatic comedy that mostly revolves around the character of Mike as he goes out each night trying to meet women. Mike is someone who's kind of down on his luck. His dreams of becoming a comedian are not really working out for him, and he's also having a pretty hard time trying to get over his ex-girlfriend. But for what it's worth, he is trying to get himself back into the dating game. And that's really the main drive of this story. He's just trying to get his life back together. Jon Favreau wrote the script for this movie, and I feel like he's achieved something rather unique with it because it feels a lot like a 5-act script to me. It's got this epic quality to it, but at the same time, it also manages to maintain a very accessible runtime of about an hour and a half, so it's also very easily digestible. I thought the cinematography was a very strong point because they made everything look remarkably ordinary. They made all the shooting locations look very natural and very imperfect. And I'd say these kinds of things helped me to relate to the characters a little bit better, and it made the story feel more authentic to me. I also want to highlight Vince Vaughn's performance as Trent in this movie because I would say he kind of steals the show. Trent is one of Mike's good friends who basically serves as his wingman throughout the story, and I think Vince just brought so much life and so much energy to this character. This was actually a breakout role for him, and it's given me a little more appreciation for his work now that I have this insight into the trajectory of his career. What I liked about Swingers is the way that I just fell in love with these characters over time, because at first I actually didn't really like them at all, honestly. These men are pretty sleazy, and sometimes they talk in a way that makes me think they've taken way too much advice from outlandish dating coaches. But when they take their game face off, it's also pretty evident that they're actually pretty tender guys, because they have these really sweet heart-to-heart conversations with each other, and they're very supportive of each other. And I think it was the dichotomy of that eventually won me over and kept me rooting for them. And I think with a closer look, it became clear to me that they don't have a prejudice against women or anything like that, and they don't actually want to be going through with the same bullshit each night of going to the clubs and striking out all the time. But they just feel that they don't have any other options. And I think we all sort of know what that's like, because when it comes to dating, whether you like it or not, you kind of just have to play the game. I'd say Swingers challenges my perspective on hookup culture a little bit, because if I'm honest, this is something I can be kind of judgy about, I think a sex as conquest kind of perspective is something that I've always felt it's a little bit repulsive to me. But I think Swingers provides enough nuance and enough accountability for these characters that I ended up just having a lot of respect for them, actually, because there really is something admirable about the way that they keep putting themselves out there despite having to deal with constant failure. And at the end of the day, they're just trying to get laid, so it's very normal behavior. I guess it's just different walks of life, But for what it's worth, I will say that Swingers has kind of inspired me a little bit. And, I'm definitely not someone who's going to be going to the clubs or anything like that. But, I actually did almost go to this New Year's Eve party last month after I had watched this movie. And I thought to myself, because this was a party where I wasn't going to know anybody. I knew a couple people, but basically I was thinking to myself, maybe I should go to this party with the intention of meeting women. And I know that sounds very normal, but for me, I don't think I've ever entertained those thoughts before. Anyway, I didn't go, but I feel like Swingers kind of at least put that in my head a little bit. And I guess if nothing else, Swingers makes me think that if I do end up meeting somebody that I find attractive, maybe I should just try to have some fun with it, instead of catastrophizing things or making it into a moral concern like I usually would do. I would highly recommend Swingers. I think it's an excellent movie, and I'm surprised that it's not talked about more, I would say it fits in very well with all of the other 90s classics. And I'd also venture to guess that this movie had a very big influence on a lot of the major comedies that came out in the early 2000s.